Hi everyone, Cobweb Rose here, and today I wanted to bring you guys some of the most surprising spots that I found on my journey along the AT when I thru hiked in 2023. So this is actually going to be a 3-part episode because I found a lot of surprises when I was hiking the trail. So the first 2 parts are going to be all of the man-made surprises I found. So things like towns, awesome shelters, and other man-made items that I found along the trail or just really amazing people. And then the last part's going to be things that nature left for us. So really beautiful locations that me and my family thoroughly enjoyed finding as a surprise when we were on the trail. So today is part 1, and I'll be taking you from Georgia to Pennsylvania with all of my favorite man-made surprises on the AT. So the first surprise that I absolutely loved was Franklin, North Carolina. This is at mile marker 110, and this is a beautiful little trail town. It's right off the trail, really easy hitch to get into town, and a lot of times Trail Angels will run shuttles back and forth to get you into Franklin. It has a great little outfitter, it has a couple of inns, it also has a Baptist church that does a free pancake breakfast for hikers during thru hiker season, and they run a van to a couple of the inns in the area to pick up thru hikers just to shuttle you to this pancake breakfast. It's also home of one of my favorite hostels, Chica and Sunsets, and it's just a really beautiful town overall. 10 out of 10 recommend that you guys stop in at Franklin. It's a great place. It was a lovely surprise for us. The next surprise that I really enjoyed was Fontana Dam in North Carolina. It's mile marker 166 because you get to, on the AT, walk straight across the top of this dam, and it's so cool because you're looking at this beautiful body of water on one side, and then of course you can look down the side of the dam, and it was such a stunning spot to walk through. And I don't think that when I started the AT I realized that Fontana Dam was going to be that cool. I also really loved Shuckstack Fire Tower in North Carolina. This is mile marker 171. Shuckstack Fire Tower is really the first fire tower that you're going to encounter on the trail. It is super sketchy. When I say super sketchy, I mean the railing at the bottom is missing and you can lift up the boards in the box at the top, but it offers an absolutely gorgeous view back to Fontana Dam and in front of you to the Smoky Mountains, which you're getting ready to hike through. So it's a really, really beautiful spot. It's definitely worth the climb, but if you are scared of heights, maybe skip this attraction because it's pretty sketch, and there's a few more stable ones along the way. When you're through hiking the AT, you'll be able to use to get some great views. Hot Springs, North Carolina at mile marker 275 was another one of my favorite little trail towns. The trail actually runs directly through the center of town. You actually, instead of following white blazes through town, they have inset diamonds with the AT symbol on the inside of them. It's a really fun location to walk through. The trail actually lets you out right next to Laughing Heart Hostel. The Smoky Mountain Diner has fantastic food for good prices, and there's a little outfitter in town as well as a few good restaurants. And then of course, if you're feeling the hot tub soaking vibes, there's some of those on your way out of town as well. But it's a really beautiful spot and it's a great little town. Now, this was actually truly a surprise that I had never heard of before I started thru hiking the AT. And that is the Southern Cookie Lady, AKA Peggy. And she is an amazing trail angel. And literally when you guys come to mile marker 291, which is Log Cabin Drive, there's a little homemade sign on one of the trees at this person's driveway that says, Southern Cookie Lady, come to my house, get free cookies, water, trash bin. And sure enough, you take that little right, you walk a few feet up the driveway, and there's this beautiful little log cabin with a water cooler on the front porch, a box full of cookies, a spot for donations, and a trash bin. And if you're very lucky, then you might even get to meet Peggy herself. This was just a beautiful spot, beautiful trail angel family, and she's been doing this forever. Great lady, definitely good cookies. So totally stop in when you were thru hiking the trail. Now, I know you guys have all heard of Damascus, Virginia at mile marker 471 because it's literally broadcast itself as Trail Town USA. I think what surprised me the most about Damascus is how much fun it is for a thru hiker, because not only do you get to experience Damascus, Virginia, because the trail walks directly through town, it has multiple outfitters, excellent restaurants, a lot of really great hostels, and it's just a really awesome trail town vibe. but you can go back if you want to, or forward, depending on when you started the trail, to go to Trail Days, which is also hosted in Damascus every year. This is a great opportunity for you to meet up with other thru hikers, see people who are behind or in front of you on trail, pick up some great gear from vendors, and just have a really amazing time. But Damascus is such a hiker-friendly town, and it's an amazing place to be. Another pleasant surprise I found on the trail was the Partnership Shelter in Virginia. This is mile marker 534. Incidentally, that's the same mile marker you'll hear me use in just a second for Marion, Virginia. Now, the Partnership Shelter is one of those really cool shelters on the AT. I think it's a double decker. It might be a single decker, but it has a solar shower. And since it's right next to the Mount Rogers headquarters for the Rangers, you can get pizza delivered to the shelter. And let's be honest, pizza delivery to a shelter is always a win on trail. Now, right next door to it is Marion, Virginia. You can shuttle really quick into town. Marion is not necessarily broadcast as a trail town, but the hikers who live there say that they want it to be on par with Damascus, Virginia. If you're in Marion, there's great restaurants. It's the home of Mountain Dew Fudge, which I can't say I recommend, but it's definitely an experience to try. And also Coach, who runs the Marion Outdoors, as well as the Mary Hiker Inn Hostel, is a fantastic guy, former thru hiker, really working hard to make Marion a very hiker-friendly town. And if you're lucky and you happen to be there on a Saturday during the right season, then you may also be able to go to one of their farmers market, and it's just a great time. So it was surprising to find this beautiful little trail town that's not exactly close to trail, but definitely has great amenities for hikers. Now, another fantastic shelter that you guys will encounter on the AT is the Bryant Ridge Shelter in Virginia. This is mile marker 762. This shelter is one of the Cadillacs of shelters. It's a double-decker, I think. It may be a triple-decker. I think it's a double-decker. It's got a crib, it's right near water, but it's just a really beautiful shelter. It's got a nice big covered porch to it, some lovely poetry on the side of the shelter. It's just a great place to hang out, and it's literally right on the trail. Now, the next shelter that I'm gonna tell you about, you're not necessarily interested in the shelter itself as much as the logbook. You guys may have heard of it. This is the Priest Shelter in Virginia. It's at mile marker 830. And the logbook in this shelter is very entertaining because since it's the Priest Shelter, hikers confess all of their hiking related sins. A lot of things to do with cat holes and pink blazing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, take a pilgrimage to that shelter someday and read the logbook. You might be very entertained or potentially very disturbed by what you find inside. Now, the Jim and Molly Denton Shelter in Virginia at mile marker 977 is truly a Cadillac of shelters. It's a beautiful one-story shelter with a big porch. It's got horseshoe ring. It's got a solar shower. It's got this beautiful little privy with like a barn door top so that you can, open it up a little bit while you're pooping in there just to get some air circulating. It's got a little mailbox. It's got a covered picnic table, camping spots, and a fire ring. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful shelter. And it's so well maintained by the PATC. I definitely recommend that even if you don't stay here, stop in because the place is gorgeous. And I was not expecting to find something that amazing on the trail. Now, another place that I found was a really good stay was the Dahlgren Backpack Campground in Maryland at mile marker 1044. Now, this has some great tent pads. It's got bear poles. It's also got a little bathhouse with a cold water shower and toilets, which just as an FYI, guys, the lights will turn off automatically if you're taking too long on the pot, so you may have to get out and wave. This is just a tip from the guys in my tramily. I'm passing this along to you. You're welcome. And as an added bonus, you can order pizza to this backpack campground, so it's well worth the stop. It's also got some beautiful trail art around, carved into the logs when you're leaving, so definitely take a look at this place. Now, something I was very surprised to find on trail, because you don't ever really hear about it, is the original Washington Monument. I'm not talking the obelisk in DC, guys. I'm talking the one that looks like a kiln. And the original Washington Monument in Maryland, it's at mile marker 1046, was actually exactly what the name suggests. It was the first version of that beautiful obelisk you guys are used to seeing. And it's really just like a little tower, so you can just go up inside, you can get a beautiful 360 view from the top. If you need to, you can hide out from some rain like we did, and you get a really cool walkthrough kind of George Washington's life and biggest achievements when you're on your way up to see the Washington Monument. I definitely recommend a stop. It's a beautiful location and definitely a pleasant surprise as if you're a history buff. Now, some of my favorite shelters were actually in Pennsylvania because I'm about to name you two of them. So the Tumbling Wren shelters in Pennsylvania, mile marker 1075, these are the famous snoring and non-snoring labeled shelters. They've got great caretakers. They've got a very cheeky privy that has a doorbell and a light switch, although there's no light and definitely the doorbell doesn't work, but they provide some TP in there. It's got a big group camping area as well as some very nicely groomed tent pads. The water source is very reliable and it's got a very large bare vault at the site. So it's a great place to stay. The caretakers come up there a lot, so you can have the opportunity to talk to the people who maintain the shelters. But oh, these are such beautiful shelters and I 10 out of 10 recommend that you guys take a stop and admire these shelters. Now, probably the nicest shelter you will find on the entire trail is the Quarry Gap shelter in Pennsylvania. This is mile marker 1088. And you guys have probably heard about this if you've heard about shelters on the AT. It's a double shelter with a beautiful covered picnic table area in the middle. They have games, they have a fire pit. They have newspapers that you can burn in the fire pit. They've got little gnomes in the gardens. Yes, there's little gardens at this shelter. They've got a privy. And best of all, the guy that maintains it is a man named Jim, and he's known as the innkeeper. He has two like co-innkeepers with him, and he's 70 something years old and still hikes up to the shelter to maintain it, even though he lives a fair distance away. But it's an absolutely beautiful set of shelters. And please guys, stop in and enjoy the luxury that is these shelters because they're just so well maintained and it really is such a treat to find on the AT. Now, another little place I was surprised by on the trail was Duncannon, Pennsylvania. It's mile marker 1149. Now the trail does walk directly through town and there's a church in the area that does some dinners for hikers. There's of course the famous Doyle Hotel, which is a little questionable, but definitely part of the AT history. They've got a lovely little KO hostel. They've got some nice coffee shops, but really the win in this town is 3 B's Ice Cream. That was hands down our favorite ice cream joint on the entire trail. Was definitely a surprise to find it in Duncannon of all places, but if you guys are going through, it's off a little side street. Definitely find it because the ice cream is so good. Now, another place that I was a little surprised by was the 501 shelter in Pennsylvania. This is mile marker 1196. This is a beautiful enclosed shelter. It has a huge skylight in the middle. And best of all, you can order pizza to the shelter. Now you do have to walk like 0.1 miles up the road to get it, but guys, it's totally worth it. There's menus inside. It has a caretaker. It's got an outdoor shower. They've got camping there. Like, it's a beautiful shelter. I hope that you don't end up like I did where you were camped above someone on the top bunk who had very smelly feet below you, but it is a lovely stay and there's a lot of bunks in there as well as places where people can actually sleep on the floor. So if it's a rainy day, feel free to pack in like we did. It's a lovely shelter, worth a stop in if nothing else. Now, this location surprised me because I actually had seen video of it but didn't know where it was before I started the trail. And this is the Hurtline Campsite and Creek Rope Swing in Pennsylvania at mile marker 1202. Now, the old Hurtline shelter used to stand at this location, but it's since been knocked down. So now it just has camp pads. And if you go back the Blue Blaze, you can actually get to this beautiful little like dammed in pond with a real sketchy and very fun rope swing off of the wall. It's so cool and it's so much fun, and I 10 out of 10 recommend you guys stop there, cool off for a bit, enjoy the rope swing, like just have fun. Like, this is one of those spots where if you're gonna take an on-trail Zero or Nero, like do it here guys, because it's so much fun. It's a beautiful spot. Find this place, it's worth it. Now, the last location I'm gonna cover in this part 1 of 3 video is Delaware Water Gap in Pennsylvania at mile marker 1297. This is another one of those towns that the trail runs directly through. And this is your final stop in the state of Pennsylvania before you cross the bridge into New Jersey. But there's a lot of beautiful little places here. There's a church that has a free hiker hostel as well as a little shelter behind it where hikers can also also stay for free. And it's got some beautiful little coffee shops, restaurants, an old-timey ice cream parlor, and it's just a very cute little town. So I definitely recommend that you guys spend an hour or more here before you cross into New Jersey while you celebrate the end of Rocksylvania. So that's everything that I was surprised by in the trail from Georgia to Pennsylvania as far as man-made structures, town shelters, and other man-made things are concerned. If you guys have any locations that surprised you, that you loved, please drop them in the comments below. Any questions, feel free to ask, guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and as always, happy trails, everyone.